the screen of my phone lit up at 11:51 at night. A text message from Catherine. My mother, since we had to fire the coordinator, you will be handling the timeline this weekend. Do not embarrass the family. I stared at the glowing letters in the dark. Some memories do not fade. They ferment. 18 years ago, they abandoned me at a highway gas station. I was 12 years old. I spilled a soda in my father's car. And for that crime, they left me shivering behind a dumpster while their taillights vanished into the dark. Now, after 18 years of total silence, they wanted me to act as free labor for my golden child brother's $150,000 Napa Valley wedding. I swallowed the bitter taste in my mouth and locked my screen. I dragged my suitcase from the closet and started packing. I picked up my phone and typed back 3 simple words. I will handle everything. I zipped my bag shut. I was going to execute a flawless surgical demolition of their fake reality. The drive to the Napa Valley estate took 3 hours. The sprawling vineyard looked exactly like the kind of place my parents used to read about in luxury magazines while dodging calls from debt collectors. Rolling green hills, massive oak barrels, white linen draped over mahogany tables. As a high-end event coordinator, I walk into venues like this every weekend. But today, I was a ghost with a clipboard. I spotted them on the terrace. Catherine wore a silk dress that looked brand new. Trevor, my father, held a crystal glass of bourbon, laughing loudly with the bride's parents. And Garrett, my 34-year-old brother, the golden boy, he stood in the center of the crowd, wearing his tailored suit and a smile that hid every ugly thing he had ever done to me. I walked straight to the vendor staging area and pulled the master ledger for the weekend. My parents claimed they fired the original coordinator because she was incompetent. One glance at the venue's internal accounting software told a completely different story. Trevor's credit card had been declined twice for the rehearsal dinner catering deposit. Catherine had not fired the coordinator. She had canceled the contract to pocket the remaining $10,000 to cover their bounce check. They were secretly drowning in debt, desperately trying to maintain the illusion of massive wealth to impress Paige's billionaire family. They summoned their forgotten, invisible daughter because they needed a scapegoat who would work for free and ask no questions. They assumed the broken 12-year-old girl was still hiding inside me, desperate for their approval. They were wrong. The rehearsal dinner began at 7 o'clock. Catherine snapped her fingers at me across the terrace. Pointing at her empty wine glass, I picked up a fresh pour from a passing tray and handed it to her. She did not say thank you. She did not even look me in the eye. I stepped back into the shadows and watched Trevor stand up to deliver his toast. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a velvet box. He handed it to Garrett, a vintage Rolex watch. The crowd clapped. Garrett beamed. I stared at the glimmering silver band, and my chest tightened. When I was 17, I needed an emergency dental surgery that cost $2,000. The pain was so blinding I could barely speak. Trevor stood in our kitchen, looked at my swollen face, and told me to get a job. He said I was a drain on the family resources. That same week, he bought Garrett a brand new sports car. The contrast was sickening. I watched them laugh and toast to family values. Paige, the bride, walked over to my corner of the terrace. She was old money wealthy, but her smile was warm and completely genuine. She touched my arm and thanked me for stepping in at the last minute to save the weekend. She asked if I had eaten anything today. I looked into her eyes and saw a good, honest woman walking directly into a trap. Garrett cornered me in the hallway 10 minutes later. The charming smile vanished the second we were alone. He leaned in close, smelling of expensive cologne and cheap arrogance. Keep your head down and do the job. Ghost, he whispered. Do not ruin this for me. I smiled politely. He had no idea I was already holding the detonator. Wedding mornings are built on chaos, but I run on precision. Catherine texted me a 40-point checklist at 6 a.m, threatening to destroy my professional reputation in the industry if a single napkin was out of place. I ignored the threats and went to work. I ensured the floral arch was flawless. I coordinated the string quartet. I let the Fosters' egos inflate to their absolute peak. I let them believe they had won. During the cocktail hour, while the guests mingled on the lawn, I enacted my strategy. There would be no dramatic microphone grabs, no embarrassing slideshows on a Jumbotron. Toxic people thrive in public screaming matches because they can play the victim. I was going to ruin them quietly. I prepared a beautiful white leather-bound wedding portfolio, the kind a coordinator normally hands to the bride right before she walks down the aisle, containing the final timeline and a sweet note. But inside this portfolio, I placed 3 specific documents. First, the printed venue accounting log proving Catherine had canceled the coordinator budget to cover Trevor's bounced checks. Second, the faded, dirt-streaked photograph of me at 12 years old, standing alone next to the gas station dumpster, the only evidence of the night they drove away. Third, a printed transcription of a drunken voicemail Trevor had left me 5 years ago, where he explicitly bragged about leaving me on the highway and called me dead to him. I walked into the bridal suite. Paige was sitting in front of the vanity mirror, her wedding dress cascading around her. I placed the leather portfolio in her lap. I looked at her reflection in the glass. Garrett is a liar, I said softly. Your family is paying for a wedding to a man who does not exist. Read this before you sign your life away. I turned around and walked out of the room before she could say a single word. The string quartet started playing the processional music at exactly 4 o'clock. 150 guests took their seats on the pristine white folding chairs. Garrett stood at the altar, sweating slightly in the late afternoon sun. Trevor and Catherine sat in the front row, beaming for the cameras. The music swelled. The heavy wooden doors at the back of the aisle were supposed to open. They remained shut. 1 minute passed, then 3. The guests began to whisper. Catherine shifted in her seat, her fake smile straining at the edges. Garrett signaled to his best man, panic finally bleeding into his perfect posture. The side door of the venue opened, but it was not Paige. It was her father. Mr. Sullivan walked directly up the aisle, ignoring the confused stares of the crowd. He did not yell. He walked straight up to Trevor, leaned down, and spoke directly into my father's ear. Trevor turned ghost white. The color completely drained from his face. Catherine stood up, demanding to know what was going on. Mr. Sullivan turned his back on them, faced the crowd, and announced that the wedding was canceled. The chaos was instant. Garrett sprinted up the aisle toward the bridal suite, his face violently fractured with terror. Catherine dropped her designer clutch, her hands shaking uncontrollably as the reality of her social destruction set in. I did not stay to watch them cry. I walked to the head table, set my clipboard down on Garrett's empty dinner plate, and walked out to my car. They tried to strike back. Of course, toxic people never accept defeat gracefully. A week later, Paige followed through with the annulment, and the Fosters received the final bill for the canceled catering and venue fees. It was devastating. Trevor and Catherine hired a discount lawyer and sued me for defamation. They demanded $150,000 in damages, blaming me for the canceled wedding. They thought the threat of a massive legal battle would terrify me into signing a public retraction. They thought I was still that frightened 12-year-old girl. I completely bypassed their legal red tape. I took the actual audio recording of Trevor's drunken voicemail and forwarded it directly to Paige's billionaire father. Mr. Sullivan was already furious at being conned by social climbers. When he heard my father laughing about child abandonment, his rage turned surgical. He retained his elite corporate legal team to defend me pro bono. They filed a brutal anti-SLAPP motion in California court, a law specifically designed to crush frivolous defamation lawsuit. The judge dismissed the Fosters' lawsuit in less than an hour. But the true boomerang was the penalty. Under the law, the judge ordered the Fosters to pay the Sullivans exorbitant corporate attorney fees. The total came to $250,000. Because my parents were already secretly over-leveraged and drowning in debt, they could not pay. The Sullivans' lawyers ruthlessly placed a lien on the Fosters' home. The financial ruin was visible, humiliating, and inescapable. Trevor's prestigious country club membership was publicly revoked due to unpaid dues. A bank-ordered foreclosure sign was hammered into their pristine front lawn for the entire neighborhood to see. Garrett was fired from his firm after the partners caught wind of the scandal. They lost their money, their status, and their golden child's future. I blocked their phone numbers forever. The morning the lawsuit was officially dismissed, I printed the court order and placed it in an envelope. I wrote a check for $10,000, fully funding a local public school classroom supply drive. I mailed both to Danielle Hughes, the teacher who had driven 80 miles to rescue me from that gas station 18 years ago. She sent me a single text message that afternoon. I always knew you would find your voice. I sat in the quiet peace of my own living room, looking out the window at the neighborhood I had built my life in. No screaming, no gaslighting, just silence. People often ask how I survived the psychological warfare of a narcissistic family. The truth is, surviving is only the first step. The real work is unlearning the script they forced you to memorize. When you grow up as the designated scapegoat, you are conditioned to believe your only value is absorbing the family's dysfunction. Narcissistic parents do not view their children as human beings. They view them as stage props. The golden child is the shiny trophy they hold up to the world to prove their success. The scapegoat is the trash can where they dump their shame, their failures, and their rage. Garrett was never truly loved. He was just the preferred prop. And I was never hated for who I was. I was hated because I refused to play my part. There are 3 rules you must understand if you are ever going to walk away from people who share your blood but do not share your heart. Rule number 1, forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. Society loves to tell us that we must forgive our families to find peace. That is a lie designed to protect abusers. You do not owe closure to people who are actively profiting from your pain. You are allowed to pack your bags, walk out the door, and never look back. Peace does not come from accepting an apology you will never receive. Peace comes from accepting that they are never going to change and deciding that their dysfunction is no longer your problem. Rule number 2, the best revenge is undeniable reality. Toxic families survive in the dark. They rely on your silence, your compliance, and your willingness to keep their secrets. When you drag their actions into the light, their entire reality crumbles. You do not need to scream or throw things or lower yourself to their level. You just need to hand the truth to the people they are trying to manipulate. The light destroys them faster than your anger ever could. Rule number 3, your boundaries are your fortress. True family is built on respect, loyalty, and mutual care, not blood-based entitlement. The family you choose will always be stronger than the family you were handed. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your present, not people who tolerate it just to exploit you. I am 30 years old now, and my life belongs entirely to me. I do not flinch when the phone rings. I do not shrink myself to make other people comfortable. I built a career from the ground up. I found friends who stand by me in the dark, and I sleep through the night without a single ounce of guilt. What toxic narrative are you keeping alive just to keep the peace? What relationship are you clinging to? Hoping that one day they will wake up and realize your worth. Drop the script. Stop auditioning for people who have already decided they do not want to see you shine. Take your power back. Write your own ending. And let the credits roll on anyone who ever treated you like an extra in your own life. If this story resonates with you, if you have ever had to walk away from a toxic table to protect your own peace, share this video. You are not alone, and you are not the crazy one. Stay strong, protect your space, and I will see you in the next one. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, why on earth did she even agree to go? Why pack a bag and coordinate a wedding for the very monsters who left her shivering behind a dumpster 18 years ago? Let us talk about why victims of family abuse often walk right back into the lion's den. In psychology, this is known as the slot machine effect, formerly called intermittent reinforcement. Toxic families operate exactly like a rigged casino. They give you absolutely nothing for years, starving you of affection. Then, suddenly, they drop a text saying, "We need you to handle this." To a traumatized inner child, that text is a crumb of hope. It makes you want to pull the lever one more time, hoping that today is the day you finally hit the jackpot of their love and validation. But Vanessa was different. She did not walk into that vineyard to pull the lever. She walked in to buy the casino and shut it down. Let us break down the absolute masterclass in financial and legal self-defense she executed. First, look at what I call the audit strategy. Scammers and narcissists absolutely hate details. When her mother claimed she fired the coordinator for incompetence, Vanessa did not waste her breath arguing. She went straight to the venue's internal ledger. She found the declined credit cards and the bounced checks. The lesson here, always follow the money. The truth lives in the bank statement, not in the family gossip. Second, she mastered the art of building the case. She did not just get mad, she kept receipts. Notice how she saved a 5-year-old drunken voicemail from her father. When you are dealing with toxic people, you must document everything. Your memory can be easily gaslit by a manipulative parent, but a timestamped digital recording cannot be argued with. Finally, she executed the ultimate buyout when her parents sued her for $150,000 for defamation. They expected her to panic. Instead, she used strategic leverage. She did not try to fight a wealthy-looking family in small claims court. She handed her absolute proof over to a billionaire who had the resources to crush them by letting Mr. Sullivan's corporate sharks file an anti-SLAPP motion. She used the legal system's own momentum to legally and permanently bankrupt her abusers. She did not pay a dime, but she bought her lifetime freedom. Months after the lawsuit collapsed, I drove past a gas station on the edge of the highway and pulled into the parking lot without planning to. It was not the same one. Not the exact place where a 12-year-old girl once stood behind a dumpster, hugging herself against the cold, watching her parents' taillights disappear into the dark. But the smell of gasoline, hot asphalt, and stale coffee hit something buried so deep in my chest that for a moment, I could not move. I sat there with both hands on the steering wheel, waiting for the old panic to rise. It did not. There was sadness. Yes, there will probably always be sadness when I think about that child, but the fear was gone. The shame was gone. The desperate question that haunted me for years, what did I do to deserve, that finally had an answer? Nothing. A child does not earn abandonment. A daughter does not deserve erasure. A 12-year-old spilling soda in a car does not deserve to be left in the dark like trash. That truth took 18 years to believe. After the Napa wedding imploded, the Fosters' perfect image deteriorated faster than they could repair it. Catherine tried to tell people I had ruined a beautiful family celebration out of jealousy. Trevor tried to frame the lawsuit as a misunderstanding. Garrett tried to play the humiliated victim whose future had been sabotaged by a bitter sister. But lies need oxygen, and I had cut off the air. The venue ledger showed the bounce payments. The voicemail carried Trevor's own voice. Drunk and cruel, laughing about the night they left me behind. The court order made it clear that their defamation case had not been a search for justice. It was intimidation with a filing fee. Once the truth became public record, their favorite weapon stopped working. They could no longer whisper me into the shape they wanted. Catherine lost the social circle she had worshipped for decades. Invitations stopped coming. Her phone calls went unanswered. The same women who once praised her elegant parties now crossed grocery store aisles to avoid her. Trevor aged almost overnight, buried under legal bills and liens. He could not charm his way out of. Garrett learned that a tailored suit cannot disguise a weak character forever. And I learned that consequences do not require my participation. I did not need to call them. I did not need to explain myself. I did not need one final speech on their porch, one final argument, one final chance to be understood. The paper trail did what my tears never could. It ended the debate. The strangest part of freedom is how quiet it is afterward. No dramatic music, no applause, just a phone that does not ring. A calendar without obligations that make your stomach hurt. A home where no one snaps their fingers, assigns you a task, or reminds you that your place in the family depends on how useful you are. For a long time, quiet felt dangerous. I was used to listening for footsteps, tone changes, slam drawers, the sudden shift in a room that meant I had done something wrong without knowing it. But slowly, my body began to understand that silence could also mean safety. Danielle's text stayed pinned at the top of my phone for months. I always knew you would find your voice. She was the one who drove 80 miles to pick me up when my own parents did not come back. She was the one who gave that terrified child a coat, a hot meal, and a place to sleep. Sending her that classroom donation did not repay her. Nothing could, but it turned one piece of my pain into something useful. Maybe that is how healing works. Not by pretending the past did not happen, but by refusing to let it be the only thing that grows from you. I still coordinate weddings. I still watch fathers walk daughters down aisles. I still see mothers cry during dress fittings. Some days it hurts in a place I cannot explain. But other days, I look at those families and feel no envy at all. Love is beautiful when it is real. And when it is not real, no vineyard, no designer dress, no perfect photograph can make it sacred. The family I have now is smaller, but it is honest. Friends who check whether I got home safely. Colleagues who respect my time. People who do not confuse access with love. People who would never ask me to manage a celebration built on my own humiliation. That is enough. More than enough. So if you are still waiting for people to become the family they should have been, please hear this. You are allowed to stop waiting. You are allowed to leave the table, cancel the performance, and stop mistaking obligation for belonging. You are allowed to stop carrying the shame of people who abandoned you and then expected your labor when they needed saving. Some doors close because someone throws you out. Other doors close because you finally choose not to return. The night they left me behind, I thought it was proof that I was unwanted. Now I understand it was the first page of a life they would never be powerful enough to control. The highway is still there. The dark is still there. The memory is still there. But I am not standing behind that dumpster anymore. I got in my own car. I drove away. And this time, nobody gets to decide whether I am worth coming back for. Here is the ultimate verdict. Blood gives people an introduction to your life, but it does not give them a lifetime subscription. You are fully allowed to cancel their access when the cost of dealing with them bankrupts your peace. If you have ever had to cut ties to save yourself, or if you are in the middle of auditing your own toxic relationships, share this video. Drop a comment below with how you broke your own generational curse. And make sure to subscribe for more street smart strategies on protecting your mind, your money, and your peace.